First of all, I believe my screen is visible for everyone. I just shared
it's
my
visible.
screen. Okay, fantastic. Now, I'm not very sure how many of you are currently working in the industry and how many of them are planning to start their career. People may be having different set of experiences here. We will see those things in the later sessions. Now, here, if I say that, can somebody answer this question? So what is networking? Anybody? Anybody? You can also send a message on the chat if you want.
Networking in simple terms, we can define it as a set of or group of nodes enabled to communicate
Okay.
between each other. So in simple terms,
Okay.
can be called as networking. Yeah.
Good. See, basically, it is nothing but connecting multiple devices, right? It no need to be exactly the nodes. No. It can be anything. It can be anything. See, earlier days, we used to say this as a computer or the endpoints. Nowadays, it could be any type of devices. It can be a PC, it can be a mobile phone, it can be any device which can be part of a network. So the moment we talk about any device, we are saying that we are also going to be discussing about what is it called? Internet of Things devices. It can be any device. Now, think about your smart devices. Maybe your TV is connecting to the network, your camera is connecting to the network, industrial devices are getting connected to the network, oil rigs are getting connected to the network. The electrical transformation devices are getting connected to the network. There are so many devices which can be part of the network. The main intention of going for connecting these devices is what? Of course, as you said, to share the information. Okay. Is this the only thing we are doing for connecting the devices? We would like to share the information. Is there is no other way the information can be shared? See, the networking is nothing but connecting multiple devices together. Why do we have to connect the devices together? Because we wanted to share the information between each other. The question is now, don't we have any other methodology or any other way to share the information between the devices? Is this the only way of doing it?
And there are wireless methods, but yeah, there are.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, wireless also networking only, no?
That is also there. Correct. Yeah.
So the question is what? Without networking, can't we share the information between each other? We could, but we need to rely on some media, right? Maybe maybe somebody has sent a message. No. So you may be having a flash drive. So when I started the career, we used to have the floppy drives. I'm not very sure how many of you are aware of those things. Floppy, tape, tape, and then what we had? CD. All these are the forms of media through which the information can be shared. But the problem with these kind of information sharing technique is what? Somehow you have to be physically nearby to the people to whom you would like to share the information. For example, if I would like to share, somebody is joining, I'm not very sure, Satish, I'm just submitting. Okay, if I would like to share any sort of information, now what I have to do? You and me supposed to be nearby, and I can copy the data into my flash drive and then I can share it with you. Or all the way, I have to carry the flash drive from point A to point B so that the information can be shared. But if you take the current, I'm sorry. I'm not able to understand what the question is. Was there a question?
I think
I
somebody
hear some
was on
sound.
not mute. I think came
Oh,
through
okay, okay. See, in current scenario, people are working in different parts of the world and they are working in the same project, right? If they have to interact with each other, they would like to share the context of the development project, whatever they do, or if they would like to ask for some clarification, how do they interact, right? Somehow we have to have some sort of connectivity. By having this connectivity, you may be sitting in one place, I may be sitting in different location, but still we can work together as if we are sitting physically in the same location. That is a main advantage of going for the networking. Probably people who are currently working, they would have having the experience of what during the COVID period, how we were executing our work from home. Now it has become a role also. People can work from home. They no need to go to the office, and they can also be permanently sitting at home and they can do their work. Regardless of the place where you are, still you can be part of the assignment. You can be part of the project. You can be part of the company, right? So that is the main power of networking. So basically, networking is nothing but connecting the endpoints or connecting the devices together to share the information. The benefit of connecting these devices together, of course, apart from sharing the information, you can also collaborate and work together as if the people are sitting in the same place. See, the projects what we get in India are most of them are what's that called, off-site projects. See, there might be requirement in some countries, right? So the organizations will take the order, they execute the order here back in India, right? We call typically as a back office, right? So your head office or your main office could be in some place, the customer may be in different place, whereas the team who is working on the project may be in a different place, but still they have to work together. They have to share the information between each other, right? So that is by having the networking, this could be easily achieved. That is the main intention of going for the networking. So the networking is going to be useful only in IT-based companies? Obviously, no. As I said earlier, it can be any type of devices that could be connected. Now, I'm working in a project with an oil company. So they have their rig in the sea. Okay. So the rig is going to be monitored from the land area. Now, how do you communicate? We have to have some sort of communication. If not, the team who is monitoring this network should also be near to that or in the same place as the rig is also there. So because I have the connectivity, the team no need to be nearby to the, what is it called, the project site. They can be in different location because the connectivity is there. Whatever they could do physically in that site, right? Majority of the activities can also be done from the remote site also. Because we most here in India, we get the project like what network operations or security operations. We can also monitor the networks from here. The corporate sites may be in different location. If something goes wrong, we may also be in a position to take actions, or we may be calling the organization. Hello, hello. All right. Okay. So the main intention of going for networking is what? People are dispersed. They can connect. They can work together. They can collaborate. They can do anything they want. They no need to be physically in the same place. That's the idea of networking. Now, when you have multiple devices connected, how you are going to be identifying each and every endpoint or each and every device which is connecting to the network? Do we have to identify? Do we have to identify the devices which are connecting to the network? If not, how do you point the information to be given to the specific endpoint? Now, all of us are having the mobile phones, right? All of us. Let's assume that all of us are having the same model, right? Then how do we identify each other? So we need to have the mobile number, right? Somehow, some sort of identification is required. Assuming that if I would like to call Amit, or if I would like to talk to Amit, I need to know Amit's number. Only then I can share the information in the form of what? Making a call and talking to him, or sending a message, or sending a WhatsApp message, whatever it could be. So even though multiple devices are connected to the network, but still we have to have a unique identification of each and every device which is which is getting connected to the network. Now, there are so many ways the devices can be identified as we move forward into the networking the course, we will be discussing a lot about it, but still for the demo discussion, I would like to talk about something called as what? An IP address. Is this the only address through which the devices are going to be identified? No. So we have MAC addresses, we have URL, we have variety of FQDNs, we have variety of methods of identifying something which is connected to the network. But still, the most important discussion or most important component is called as what? An IP address. I hope most of the people are familiar with what is an IP address. Am I right? Hopefully.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so tell me, what is an IP address? How do you define it?
Yeah, internet protocol.
Okay. Okay.
It's a
Any
32.
unique address provided to a computer while connecting to the network.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, it's a 32-bit address for each particular device in the network. So yeah,
Mm,
it could be also, if it's
okay.
IPv6, it could be 128-bit. Yeah,
All right. Okay. That is on the IPv6 part. Correct? Na?
correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, there is one message on the chat. A unique identification of a computer in a network. Or, no. A unique identification of a computer network. Okay. Can it be unique? That's the question. Now, can you check, at least two of you guys, can you check your IP address and let me know what is IP address configured on your PC? How do you check that out? In case of Mac users, Linux users, go for ifconfig. In case of Windows users, use ipconfig. You can see the IP addresses associated to it. So my IP address is 192.168.1.10. This is my IP address. Can somebody else can also share their IP addresses? At least two of you can check your IP address and let me know what is the IP address associated to your interface. Maybe your wireless adapter or wired adapter, how you got connected, I'm not very sure. Some people may be connected through the mobile phones also.
So mine is 192.168.172.1.
192.168.172.1. Okay. But 172.1 typically would be part of the router. But anyway, fine. That's not a problem. Now mine is 192.168.1.10. This is my IP address. I think someone has messaged it. 192.168.0.126. All right. Okay. Now, do you think that this IP address is going to be unique? What I mean to say is that unique across the globe? Obviously, no. It can be the same IP address could be given to some other devices also. See, I have my other network that also falls under the same 192.168.1 segment only. What I mean to say, typically an IP address provides an identification, right? But what we call it as, it's a logical address. It's not the physical address. As somebody said, IP address provides an identification. Yes, correct. It is 32 bits in length. And you said binary, right? You said binary, right? Is this binary? I heard someone said binary. It's true. It's correct. But what we are seeing is binary or what?
This is the
192.1.
decimal representation of the binary. Yeah.
Okay. 32-bit binary. If you do the decimal conversion, do you think you will be getting this kind of value?
No, it will be in zeros or ones. Yeah.
No. What I'm saying that, let me say that 32-bit binary value, 0, 1, like this. Okay. If I convert this one into decimal, do I get this kind of a value? Do you understand my question? Why I
Uh,
have 192 and then I have a dot and then 168 and then I have a dot? Normally, if it is a 32-bit binary value, you can convert it to decimal. It's a single value. It is supposed to be
Okay.
a single value.
Okay, yeah, it's a 32-bit address divided like this. Probably the dot is given as an octet to split the values 8 into 8 bits each. Yeah.
Why? Why they're doing it? What is the necessity of doing it? Okay. Now, the point here is if I have 32-bit binary, assuming that I have 100 devices, I need to remember each and every device binary value. Only then I could send the traffic to him. Am I right or not? Now, in this class, let's assume that how many of them are connected? I'm really sorry. My son is calling. Just give me a minute. I'll attend his call and then. Hello. Okay. Now we have around 10 participants in the classroom, correct? I need to know everyone's address. Only then I can send the information to them. Am I right or not? For example, I would like to send some traffic to, or I would like to talk to Suresh, or I would
Yes.
like to talk to someone, Pankaj, or whoever it is. So if I would like to send some traffic to you, I need to know your identity, which is 32-bit binary value. Can I remember the 32-bit binary value of each and every device connected to the network? No. To answer this question, how many of you are maintaining the phone book? your contact list in your phone, nah? Why you are doing it?
Just to recall them.
No. Okay. Now, can't we remember 10-digit phone number of our friends? How many phone numbers you have stored? Why do you want to store it? Without storing, can't you remember the IP address? Can't you remember the phone numbers?
No.
Very difficult, no? Very, very difficult. When you have 10-digit phone number, that itself difficult for us to remember. How you're going to be managing or remembering the 32-bit binary IP addresses, binary values of each and every endpoint that is connected to the network. Now, for example, if I ask you, what is the IP address of Facebook? Without knowing the IP address of the Facebook, how do you communicate with it? You have to remember that 32-bit binary value. You need to remember the IP address of Gmail. You need to remember that 32-bit binary value of it. How do you remember them? It becomes complicated, right? To simplify the process of simplify the process of identifying an entity in the form of a binary address, we came up with something called as what? A decimal system. That also becomes complicated because 32-bit binary, if you convert it to decimal, it will be longer than the phone number. So we have to have a mechanism with which we can easily remember the IP addresses of the endpoints. That's how what we started doing is we have sliced this 32-bit binary value into 4 equivalent parts, which we call it as octets. Why octet? Because 8 values are there, 8 bits are there. So 4 equivalent parts, an IP address is being sliced into 4 equivalent parts, and every part will be having 8 bits into it, and we are identifying those parts with a term called as what? An octet. By having 8 bits, you can understand that the maximum value that could be possible is 255 in decimal. 0 to 255 is the range of values possible in every octet. Then the problem is what? How do you uniquely differentiate each and every octet value? In every octet, you can have 0 to 255. You also have a responsibility, or you also need to identify or differentiate each and every octet value uniquely. That's where we came up with the dots to differentiate every octet value. Now, the IP address is not simply being converted into a decimal system. It is converted into a system called as what? Dotted decimal system. You're getting my point? It's not a decimal system, it is a dotted decimal system. The 32-bit binary value is sliced into 4 equivalent parts, and every 8-bit value is going to be converted into decimal, and every 8-bit is going to be differentiated by placing a dot in between. So 8-bit value converted into decimal. To differentiate every octet, we have a dot. So that's how we got dotted decimal system. Okay. Now, the next thing is what? The IP address has two components in it. One is called as network ID component, and the other component is called as what? A host ID component. So what is the network ID and what is a host ID? Somebody is joining again. What is the network ID and what is the host ID? Of course, we are going to be spending a lot of time on the IP address because from my experience, I have seen people are having little bit of gray areas with respect to the IP address part. Basically, it is the fundamental component. Everyone should have the clarity on it. As they are growing in their industry, they can have a better understanding on it. Even nowadays, when we do the AWS trainings and all, people can get into the AWS directly. It wouldn't be a problem at all. But still, if they have the background of networking, it'll be so easy for them to visualize because AWS, from the perspective of an engineer, are all virtual, right? So we have a server, it's a virtual. We have a router, it's virtual. We have a switch, we have a virtual. Everything is virtual. Connectivity is virtual for us, people who are creating the infrastructure and all. No, but again, in that also, you have all these components, but virtually, if you have the if you have the better understanding of how the network operates, the same thing you can easily map it with your AWS also. Any domain, if you would like to get into the security, you have to have better understanding on the fundamentals of networking. If you're planning to get into the collaboration, you need to have a better understanding of your networking. The fundamentals of networking. Any part, even if you want to be specialized on wireless networks, still you have to have a better understanding on these fundamentals of networking. This is the fundamental which is required for anyone who would like to be part of this networking industry. Anyway, we will have a detailed discussion when we start up the class. Now, what is the network ID and what is the host ID? Now, to understand this one, I would like to take an example of an email ID. So we call it as email address, right? Now, when I say that kvgopi@gmail.com, what are all the things that you can understand from here? There is a domain called as gmail.com. Don't worry, we will talk about the domain as we proceed in the class. So gmail.com is the domain. In that domain, there is a user who's known as kvgopi. So when I'm sending an email, unable to hear. Oh my God.
We can hear,
Yeah.
I think it's on his side. So
Okay. All right. Now, if you see this one, gmail.com is the domain in which there is a user called as kvgopi. When somebody is sending an email to this particular email ID, the destination is going to be gmail.com. In gmail.com, the mail is going to be delivered to a person called as kvgopi. Now, this is the group and this is going to be the individual, right? Similarly, network ID is going to be an identification of a set of devices which are part of the same network. So people, when they have their devices in the same network, their network ID will be the same. But their host ID, their individual identity in that network is going to be unique. Think about your email IDs within your organization. Every employee will have their domain name as the same, but their username is going to be different, correct? So basically, this is the person uniquely identified in this domain. Why basically it is required? Because you may have different groups. You may have the same identity in different groups also. Even if you take a phone number, basically I'm from India, southern part of India. Let me say that my phone number is 22437681. I'm just an example. Now, this is the phone number associated to my landline. Let's assume that this is not the number actually. I'm not sharing that number, but still, this is a landline number. How people know that this number is associated to Gopi, who is sitting in Chennai? How do they know about it? Right? So if somebody, if somebody is sitting in other part of India or other part of the world, if they would like to reach this number, they need to have some other identification also. Anybody who is sitting outside of the world, if they have to reach a number in India, first of all, they need to identify the Indian country code, which is 91. Forget about this 00. 91 is the Indian country code. And then he is trying to reach a number in Chennai, which is going to be identified by a group. So 91 is the group identification for the entire country. 44 is the group identification for the entire Chennai. And this is my identity within that particular group. Similarly, the IP addresses also have two different components. The group identification, which is called as the network ID. The members of that group are all being considered as they are connected to the same network. Now, when I asked this question initially, can you see this one? Are we in the same network? Are we in the same group? No. But again, there is a question. How do I say that we are not in the same group or we are in the same group without knowing which are all the bits associated to the group or which are all the part of the network ID? So I said that network ID and host ID is there. Here in this, which one is network ID and which one is host ID? How do we know about it? Again, there is a rule which we call it as a first octet rule. We will know about it. We will be discussing about the first octet rule to classify which bits are network ID bits and which bits are host ID bits and what all the different types of classes we have it. All these discussions we will be having it. But for the demo session, I just said that in your IP address, you have two different components. One is called as the network ID and the other one is called as the host ID. Network ID is used to identify the group of set of devices, whereas the host ID is the individual identification of the group. You're getting my point, right? And apart from this, we also have a couple of other addresses like what? MAC address. We typically call it as physical addresses, hardware addresses, layer 2 addresses, data link address. But what is the official name for the MAC address? Anybody? People already working on the industry.
Yeah,
Only
Nick.
them they can answer it.
So network interface card.
The MAC is going to be on NIC. I understand. But my question is, what is the official name for the MAC address? See, there are so many names are there, correct? Na? You have physical address, you have layer 2 address, you have hardware address, right? So many names are there. Data link address. But it also has an official name associated to it, which is called as BIA. When you read the documentation, you normally see it as a BIA. BIA stands for what? Burnt in address. So why they gave it name as burnt in address? Because this MAC address is going to be burnt into the circuitry of your NIC. When you change the NIC, your MAC address will also change. Am I right? If you change your network interface card, the MAC address will change. Why? Because the MAC address is burnt into the circuit, right, of your NIC. So if you change the NIC, the MAC address will also be changing it. We also have fully qualified domain name using which you can identify the devices like what? Instead of remembering the IP addresses in the format of dotted decimal system, I have a simplest way, which is nothing but the fully qualified domain name, Facebook. Why should I remember the binary? Why should I remember the dotted decimal system? I can simply call it by name, right? Facebook.com. So immediately it is going to be translated into the dotted decimal system. Again, it is going to be translated into what the binary system, and then I can reach the destination. Why these complications are there? Don't worry, we will be having all these discussions as we start the program. Okay, now, if you have any questions, I think I'm good for today's, what's it called, the session. But still, if you have any kind of a clarification, whether it is a technical or non-technical related to the course, please, you can put your questions on the chat window, or you can unmute yourself and you can ask the questions.
So yeah, it's basically not related. I'm actually already there in the networking industry. So my probable
Okay.
reason for joining the demo class is to get a refresher training as such. So been in part of a senior network engineer. So I'm working for an
Okay.
organization. So trying to move into the cloud-based thing. So as you mentioned, my initial,
Oh,
yeah. So initial
okay.
reason for joining this to ensure that I have a solid base. Because when I joined, I had cleared the CCN and all that. So it's been a while. We don't
Hmm,
get to use all these topics or anything as a refresh and day-to-day work. So I just want to get
hmm.
a good idea of what exactly would be your the course duration and the topics that would be covered and all that.
Okay.
If you can please that
All
would be-
right. So the duration, official duration is 40 hours. Okay. The course content, I will ask Amit to share it. But anyway, I can show you here. Hmm. Right. See, this is the part of it. So it starts with the fundamentals part, how we are going to be connecting them together, what is the physical topology, what is the logical topology, which are all the components we are going to be using them, what is the role and responsibility of each and every device. When we are connecting the devices, do we have to follow any kind of recommendations like what the architectures, like what 2-tier, 3-tier spine and leaf, what is the difference between them, where do we use them? We will be having the discussions related to that with the network fundamentals, and we will also talk about the packet structure, right? How the packet is going to be moved from point A to point B. What's the role of OSL layer, which helps us the interoperability between different products or different OEM products together. And we are going to be talking about IPv4 addressing, and we will also talking about detailed discussions related to subnetting. We also have IPv4, IPv6, both of them are there. And then how do we configure the IP parameters? Just now we have seen this is one of the activity officially given in your CCNA training program. But we will be talking about a variety of wireless discussions as well, how the components are going to be, how the data is going to be transmitted in the form of RF waves, what are all the components, what do you mean by SSID, how it is going to be secured, all these things are going to be there. Then we will also be having a little bit of discussions related to the switching, where we will be having the detailed discussions related to the forwarding decisions, how it is going to be made by the switches, VLANs, inter-VLAN routing, a little bit of discussions related to loop avoidance mechanism, what is a loop, how the loop can be avoided, right? And then we will slowly move on to the security part of it. See here, this is what I'm talking about, the rapid PBSD plus spanning tree protocol. And then we will slowly move on to what the wireless area associated to it, how the authentication can be enabled, what is the protocols we will be using it. And then we will move on to the routing part of it, the directly connected routes, static routing, or the dynamic routing. When you have multiple routes in the routing table, how the matching is going to be done, how the routing table can be initialized, what is the routing table, what is the forwarding table, right? All those things we will be having the discussions with in the IP connectivity area. The dynamic protocol for our discussion is OSPF. And then we will move on to the services where we will be talking about DHCP, DNS, NAT, access control list, SNMP, NTP, all of them, DHCP, all these discussions we'll be having it. And then we will get into the security fundamental, CIA concept, um, what is it called? The description related to the VPN, layer 2 security, layer 3 security. All this will be covered in your security fundamentals part of it. And then finally, we will have a little bit of discussions related to the automation programmability, which is having a high demand currently in the industry. A brief introduction to that is going to be given. So what is an API? What is the purpose of going for the automation part of it. What is the benefit you will get it, right? What do you mean by the data format? What data formats are being accepted? How Python could be useful for automation? Why people are learning Python? Those are all the areas we will be talking about in automation and programmability. Just a brief introduction I just gave it, but still I will ask Amit to share the content in the group. All right. So any other questions? Okay, Jack. Anyone, anything you would like to ask? Mm. All right then, Amit, you there? Let him know. Okay. Okay, I will inform Amit. If you don't have any question, I can think we can wind up for the day.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.